Hello, my name is Simon Gray and welcome to BVI Business Insight. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Simon Gray. I'm at BVI Finance and I'm delighted to welcome you to the first of this series of videos that we're speaking with key members of our financial services industry. And I'm delighted to have with me two very senior members of Hatstone Group. We have Phillip Neumann and Calum Mackenzie. Phillip is a lawyer, a senior lawyer with the Hatstone Group, specializing in all facets of financial services with a particular interest in alternative investment funds. Calum covers the fiduciary side and fund administration and has spent 23 years here in the BVI, and both have an excellent pedigree in discussing a whole range of financial services products. But today we're going to be focusing on the prolific and ever innovative BVI fund service industry. I think if I could perhaps turn to Calum first. Welcome again. Could you perhaps describe what you think is the most important and successful product that's been created here within the BVI from your perspective?
Well, thank you for the introduction. I think in more recent years, and obviously with a sort of focus specifically on investment business, the most successful product that we have seen at Hatstone is the approved manager. It's something that was developed to allow managers to have a regulated entity which is able to conduct business without overburdensome regulation, and it's become a very successful product, backed up by the statistics that we have as to how many people are using the approved manager.
Well, that's a very good overview. Phillip, do you want to elaborate at all on any element of that?
No, I think Calum is perfectly right. Thanks, by the way.
Okay.
No, he's perfectly right. Approved manager was long awaited in the industry. It got implemented and then was a success from day one, really. So it's pretty much the best product or best legal product you can have for an investment manager who doesn't need to establish, say, like a very comprehensive presence. It's a lean product. It's a dynamic product and good for dynamic fund managers.
Good, that's very helpful. I mean, what I think we generally find in the BVI, there's a desire or a need for speed, for cost effectiveness, but also very credible financial services regulation. What's your experience of the speed and the efficiency of dealing with those sort of aspects?
Yeah, I think kind of the speed is incredibly good, and this is really confirmed by clients. If they ask me, so Phillip, how long would it take you guys at Hatstone to set up an approved manager for us? The timelines we can provide to them are really beyond their expectations. Okay. So, and it's all very straightforward. Our regulator, the BVI Financial Service Commission, is extremely familiar with the product. They're business friendly in that sense. So I know we can really, from the first call to the delivery of the end product, it shouldn't take even a month, which is really very competitive if you look at the international scale, other jurisdictions, and how much time they need to get this off the ground, really.
No, that's very helpful. I wonder if we could just move now on to the actual product, the products themselves. Innovation is something the BVI has been very famous for a very long time, and it never seems to let up. But one of its most successful products have been both the approved fund regime and the incubator regime. Well, Calum, could I ask you to comment perhaps on the incubator regime?
Yeah, the incubator was designed with a specific purpose in mind. It was something that was intended to allow, probably more specifically, emerging or new managers to adopt a product which is, I guess in a sense, it's not a regulated product, but it is something that is approved, and it allows managers to try and develop a track record to, in effect, prove themselves or their product or their trading strategy at essentially a low cost, but within a regulatory framework. And it allows them to take that product and essentially go to potential investors and explain to them that this is something that is within a certain framework, but it allows them to do that at a sort of minimal cost, and with again without overburdensome regulation. I mean, we quite often refer to the incubator as the 2020 where they're allowed up to 20 investors, 20 million, and it's something that was incredibly successful. A lot of people took up on the incubator, and it's something that we continue to see demand for. We're actually working on setting one up right now. I was working on it earlier today.
Oh, good. And my understanding is that they're pretty popular with the hedge fund industry, but more recently with the crypto currency and the crypto fund industry as well. Are you seeing more interest coming from that direction, given the rise of it over recent years?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of interest in the crypto space over the last 18 months, 2 years. Again, it's a developing market. It's something that the product lends itself to, and allows people to, in effect, take the best of a simple sort of fund offering and combine it with an innovative idea, and allow a developmental process to occur. I think, various, I know it's sort of slightly off tack, but the various sort of sandboxing ideas is, I guess it's a mesh of the two, but it's certainly a product that's proven appealing to people operating in that space.
And it's a very catchy title to describe really what it's designed to help with. Philip, I wonder if I could move over to you and talk about the approved fund regime. Yes. Can you elaborate on that for us, please?
Yeah, the approved fund is basically, it's the other new funds product that came in at the same time as an incubator fund. And there the idea is really to design, again, a kind of a lightly regulated investment fund product for family and friend funds, family offices. So it's more like a private setting, really. The main restriction there is the threshold of maximum investments, basically. And the number of investors, but we see lots of inquiries on this particular type of fund, really, from high net worth individuals, family offices, and they're like the BVI, they're like our funds products, but they don't need a fully fledged fund with a whole suite of different service providers, like the broker firms, the several custodians, and investment manager, and advisor, and so forth. So we've designed a product that basically ticks most, if not all, of the boxes of those kind of fund sponsors, really. And
I think that's a fair point. Is when the original product was originally envisaged, it was something that was done with very much with the demand of the industry, of the clientele in mind. It was something that we were conscious of. The people were demanding. And I think the success of it in terms of again, statistical data will show that it's been a pretty successful product, and clients like what it does.
No, excellent. And my recollection is that was about 5 years ago, wasn't it? They were introduced. So they're fairly embedded now.
A little bit longer, but I can't remember the exact date. It might have been about 2013, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. But of course, innovation hasn't stopped. Topical and very much current news. The new PIF, or the private investment fund product, can perhaps start with Calum and then elaborate.
No, maybe start with Philip.
Okay, Philip, over to you.
Okay, so basically, just to start with a kind of a historic view on it. We had kind of two different fund regimes in the BVI. The open-ended fund, they were regulated and some are controlled by the BVI Financial Services Commission, and then we had the closed-ended funds, and they were not regulated. And the closed-ended funds were largely used for private equity funds, real estate funds, and so forth. So these funds were a bit, I wouldn't say in a grey area, but they were definitely not on the radar of the regulator, which was something that some of the fund sponsors didn't really like. So for several reasons, basically, the BVI government took the decision to bring them into the regulated sphere of funds. Okay. And this has happened basically effective start of the year. And our experience so far is really that clients really like the idea to kind of have a regulated private equity fund.
Yeah, excellent.
And the regulations applicable to those funds are not kind of, again, it's business friendly, it's not overly cumbersome. It's an easy to maneuver product, if you like.
No, well, excellent industry liaison with the regulator on designing these new products, and I think that's a credit to the BVI. There is that constant communication between regulator and regulated, and thank you to you and your colleagues in the industry. I wonder if I can now move on a little to discuss the issue of perhaps international standards. Regulatory standards driven by IMF, etc.
Yes.
What are your observations on that in terms of a place to make it positive to do business here in the BVI?
Yeah. Well, I mean, regulatory standards, I mean, are we talking about what? I mean, BVI has always been an attractive jurisdiction to do business for a great number of reasons. One of, not least, is the fact that we do adhere to, highest regulatory standards, and are seen to be a jurisdiction which is, in fact, in many instances, leading offshore jurisdictions or leading financial centres to develop, new regulation, new legislation. And essentially, we're constantly developing the jurisdiction to meet new regulatory standards. BVI is for many of its offerings is a member, and I must be honest, I'm not a member. Investment funds, for example, I know the BVI is a member of IOSCO, which is the standard setting organisation. And BVI tries to play an active role in discussing, how we can help all financial centres continue to thrive, but absolutely adhere to the highest possible standards, basically.
Sure. Philip, do you want to elaborate at all?
No, I think that's a very, very good and fair analysis. My view is that when people ask me, so where are your clients from? My honest response would be from any country of the world. So BVI is truly extremely international, which means that we're always on the radar of any new kind of regulatory developments. And as has always been the policy in the BVI, to follow the newest regulatory trends and to implement them in time, basically. And if we look at competing jurisdictions, they tend to be a bit behind, but essentially, kind of the newest regulatory developments we are seeing now in the BVI, they will be to be replicated in other financial centres in a couple of years' time.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that as much as obviously we don't necessarily play, the industry plays a part in helping the government and develop certain regulatory and legislative developments. Ultimately, it's the government that are constantly involved in discussions and negotiations with, supranational organisations and bodies like the EU, and obviously, it's critical for us as a jurisdiction to ensure that we're always, basically whitelisted and shown as a jurisdiction which will do what is necessary to meet international demands, basically.
No, and thank you for mentioning the expression. I mean, I think it really was a great reward and achievement when the BVI joined the list of cooperative countries from the European Union standpoint, colloquially sometimes known as the white list. But I think that's there's no room for complacency, but it was certainly a very, very good result, and I think it is probably quite a good selling point for the jurisdiction as well.
Yeah, I think it's obviously crucial. Without wanting to sort of we'll focus on the good stuff. We've done very well, and it's something that is very, very positive for the BVI as a whole.
Yeah, good. In terms of other sort of extraterritorial trends in legislation, obviously elements such as FATCA for some clients, that seems to be an increasing trend. Sometimes cynics have argued there may be an element of subtle protectionism, but it's something that I think we're quite good at responding to on time, sometimes ahead of schedule. And if I can move on to the economic substance debate,
sure.
My understanding is that the legislation and guidance was all in place within the required time frame, in spite of the mishap of the hurricane seasons. But can you elaborate, Philip, perhaps starting with you?
Yeah, it's basically economic substance legislation was introduced, and background is pretty much the BEPS policies on the EU level and on international scale, basically. So the idea behind that was that they thought that BVI companies should some of them, depending on what they were doing, should create substance, economic substance here in the BVI. There were lots of discussions how to best implement that, and again, I think it's I mean, for some of the clients, the idea of having to set up I don't know, like a real office space and everything, but they're open to it, but it's just like something they were surprised with at the start, and I think, again, because it's a fairly good kind of cooperation between the finance industry and the government, we managed to find a kind of a modus operandi that it is not too harsh. It's in terms of change of what needs to be done, but fits, ticks all the boxes, basically, satisfies the EU requirements. And this is an ongoing game, if you like, an ongoing topic, but it's I think we've managed quite well to implement that here. I don't know what you
I think we as you mentioned, I think as a jurisdiction we've thus far managed to hit all of the relevant deadlines to develop the legislation and have everything in place. I think in terms of development, I think initially the industry, there was probably a great deal of fear that we'd be overwhelmed with what would be required, but the reality is that economic substance has not necessarily impacted the way some people initially feared, in the sense of the way the way the legislation is developed. It's been done in a very pragmatic and sensible approach, and ultimately it's fit for its purpose, and it does what it's designed to do. That's not to say that it hasn't created a lot of work for people, but it's also created a lot of opportunities for people here to get to BVI and develop, and it's something that we're finding is very positive from our perspective, and there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of people will spend a lot of time helping clients, but it's something that, again, we view as positive rather than negative.
And importantly, in the context of investment funds, I think it's safe to say that the impact on the investment funds industry here is rather minimal, really. So it's nothing, because we are already regulated, and there are already kind of there's a certain substance in place already. So there's nothing that kind of would be detrimental to the further growth and development of our BVI funds.
Yeah, I mean, because at Hatstone we have a lot of investment business clients, and obviously we've been assisting a lot of them and giving them advice, and I think it's reasonable to say that its impact on the vast majority has been pretty minimal.
I mean, you have to look at the details always, but it's basically you can navigate through without kind of major damage, if you like.
No, that's good. Well, I think clients are very receptive to the amount of client care and thought that's gone into trying to see whether they are in fact impacted or not. Yes. So a credit to you and the rest of the industry. but also I think to the ITA and the government who's been negotiating with the European Union. I think the most important thing about this, it shows that how always we are willing to adapt to changing circumstances, and there's no room for arrogance or complacency. If something comes up, we try and predict it, and then we adapt in the most commercial way possible.
I think that's right. I mean, probably something as of a tangent, but someone who's been in the BVI for 23 years now, there's been a number of developments over those years where we felt that, you know, it would be particularly harmful perhaps to our business model, but time and time again, in fact, we've showed that we have the ability to adapt and put the necessary solutions in place to, you know, if anything, continue to thrive. And you know, again, our statistics would show that as an industry we're performing very, very well at the moment.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Perhaps a final question is the inevitable one. COVID-19, it's hard to escape from it. What are your thoughts on the new normal? A tiresome expression, but it seems to be de rigueur now.
Well, much to the dismay of our IT guys, I quite like having Zoom video conferences with my clients, just to see them, and they're all, you know, at home. So it's like it's basic. And in the BVI we rarely see clients coming to our show, so we travel a lot. We can't do it now, so that's why we've replaced that by, I guess, video conferences. Taking place a lot. It's good, you know. It's good.
Yeah, it's again. I think the impact for us has been negligible, really, in the sense of we're equipped to effectively just work remotely. Pretty much all of our staff have been working remotely for the last 8 or 10 weeks now, and everyone is, I guess, I wouldn't necessarily say enjoying it, but it certainly hasn't impacted on the operations of the business per se. And to some extent, Philip's right, we're probably even possibly more interacting with clients because people seem to be much more, I guess, willing or wanting to engage in Zoom calls, which historically, I guess, if you were in the office, you just never would have done it. It would have just been an email or something. So it's you know, again, it shows our adaptability and the fact that we can, you know, shift and move with the times to do what we need to do.
And it's probably safe to say work-life balance has generally improved.
Double-edged sword, that one. I think, you know, sometimes it's easier to sort of nip out for a game of tennis at 4 in the afternoon. Now we're allowed, but you know, you do tend to find yourself still working till silly hours, if you know, on the occasional. But yeah, you look at the positives. You know, you get to spend a lot of time with family, and you know, and maybe try and strike a better balance. I think, But
I think another aspect is basically after the major hurricane in 2017, if I'm not wrong. We at Hatstone really learned the lesson that we are all able, kind of basically to pack our things, and within 24 hours everybody walks away and plugs in somewhere else and just continues operation.
Yes,
and I'm sure that we're not the only ones, or the other service providers here will have similar mechanisms and procedures in place to be able to
business continuity did work pretty damn well after the hurricanes, which were quite a good test for anything else that we.
It was interesting to find that our business continuity plans did work. Yes.
Reassuring for the regulator as well.
I guess so.
Yeah. And then work-wise, obviously there. And we've seen less transactional work, but we see really kind of lots of funds inquiries. I think kind of there are some fund sponsors, fund managers who really think there must be great opportunities now in the market, kind of probably to enter into distress scenarios and so forth. So there's, we see business.
Well, I think the cause for optimism is always important. I think it was Churchill who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And he had a number, of course, he had to deal with. But I'd like to thank both of you for your valuable time today.
Thank you.
I'm conscious of your busy schedules, but that was extremely informative, very educational, and thank you both very much for your time, and hopefully we'll see you back in due course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
how does financial services benefit the BVI? It's been around for more than 3 decades before the World Wide Web and is now part of the everyday life of our islands. More than 2,200 people are directly employed in financial services, and another 3,000 jobs are supported indirectly. Jobs are corporate service providers, lawyers, insolvency, accounting, banking, insurance, regulators. That's almost 27% of the national workforce. Of those, more than 65% are BVI landers and belongers. What about restaurants, supermarkets, or shops? Well, 100% of people eat. So, they buy food. They buy swimsuits and shampoo and cars and power tools and plantains and fish and roti and pates. Financial services employees buy painkillers and lots of beer. Then there's electricity and dental floss and toilet paper and pretty much everything else. And everyone needs a roof over their heads and a place to do business, so we all rent or buy from a local landlord. Housing and office space alone means millions of dollars into the pockets of BVI families. At the end of the day, everyone benefits, including charities who receive thousands of dollars every year. And more than 60% of all government revenues come from fees paid by financial services. This money is spent on schools, roads, ports, scholarships, the environment, health, sports, children, youths, and the elderly. Financial services contributes more than $290 million to the BVI economy. That's more than 30% of all economic activity is driven by financial services. This creates thousands of jobs all across the islands, meaning more people have a way to earn a living. What does financial services do for the BVI? Let's just say it keeps our lights on. Financial services is everybody's business, so come on, mind your business and let's not keep this to ourselves.